places in India. Well, another objective is evolution of holistic approach towards problems through awareness, concerns, involvement and application of scientific methodology for their resolution. Our today's topic also is aimed at the same, the science of comprehensive town planning to balance uncontrolled migration, inviting medical science interventions and criminology. Vigyan Prasar works for stimulation of spirit of curiosity, inquiry, innovation, and creativity through activities which would supplement conventional education and make science a very enjoyable and interesting pursuit. Well, we know that governance is an issue about public policy and citizen benefits. Managing a city, town, a village cluster, or a region is the science of management of limited resources such as real estate, potable water, drainage lines, capacity to manage wastes, supply chain logistics for food and trash, green cover, flowing air, etc. Efficient and comprehensive town planning ensures that the citizens remain healthy, happy, disease-free, and the society is largely crime-free. Law and order is also assured. The next stage is efficient recycling, which again ensures health of the region's ecology and also ensures lack of conflict between nature and human interest. Sri Debashish Roy, our today's speaker, will share his experiences and observations about how Bengal and Calcutta can emerge as the #1 destination for the best lifestyle, best industrial environment, and best educational environment just by following the tenets of comprehensive town planning. A few words about our speaker today. Sri Debashish Roy has worked for the print and digital media based in New Delhi since 1989. He has also contributed to the formation of the earliest television channel in India, like Times TV. Sri Roy also managed the European and North American readerships for online versions of the Times of India and Economic Times. He has managed various positions in media for more than 30 years now. Sri Roy has always been a business journalist and business analyst. He launched his management consulting firm, Royal Corporation, in 2005. Under Royal Corporation, Sri Roy consults for companies and government departments for improvement of processes and operations. He is globally considered to be an expert on brand building and lean management. He also heads a social initiative for the betterment of citizens, industry, and government called Next Harvest. In Calcutta, Sri Roy heads the Jute Federation and actively consults government and industry on the betterment and modernization of this zero carbon footprint industry. So now we will move on to our today's talk, and with this I hand over to our speaker, Sri Debashish Roy. Over to you, sir.
Hi, thank you, Srijani. That was a very kind, generous, and wonderful introduction. The aim is to start a discussion and start a interaction on this topic. And comprehensive town planning is something India badly needs. And there are hundreds of examples across the world. We can follow them, we can live by them, and we can also adopt them according to our particular needs. Every society and every culture has a particular need of its own, and we have to start adopting these models from across the world. So in this is the first time I'm using the StreamYard StreamYard platform, so I'm not able to see whoever is present. But anyway, I hope this will be a much more interactive session, and I hope everybody comes up with a lot of discussions, points of discussions, questions, because this is a very, very dynamic topic and it requires interaction and participation. Otherwise, comprehensive town planning doesn't work. So I've been working from on this topic in my even previous roles in as the Director General of Next Harvest, which I'm handling even now. And I was working with the Government of India, Ministry of Urban Development for a lot of smart city projects. So smart city projects were also about comprehensive town planning. So we looked at a lot of models like Kansas in the US, Stuttgart in Germany, Seattle in the US, and then you have Melbourne and Sydney as the twin cities. So I have a 16 slide presentation today. And as I said before, it should bring up a lot of questions and points of participation and discussion, because if you want to achieve something in comprehensive town planning in India, especially in Calcutta, West Bengal, and any other city in India, we have to encourage participation from all levels of society. And if we keep on meeting and if we keep on interacting, we'll achieve something. So I'll go over to my slide deck. So here it is. I hope it's visible to everybody. The science of comprehensive town planning to balance uncontrolled migration, inviting medical science intervention and criminology, or you can put it as inviting healthcare intervention, healthcare infrastructure intervention, and criminology. See, it's all about governance.
I'm sorry to
Yeah. Yes, please.
interrupt, sir, but
Yeah.
then we can't see the slides actually.
Sorry, you can't see the slides.
No.
So what do I do? I click on share
Can you
again, and
share
then
one? Yeah.
yeah, can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's the science of comprehensive town planning to balance uncontrolled migration, inviting medical science intervention, or you can say inviting healthcare infrastructure intervention, and criminology. Now, when I say criminology, I'm talking a lot about rehabilitation and deterrence with punitive measures. So let's go into it right away. So it's all about governance. It's all about governance. Governance is the principle which has to be actively, actively intervening all the time for comprehensive town planning, and ensuring the involvement of all walks of society, all segments of society, so that we reach a goal of this principles of natural justice and principles of equity. So if we see the pointers here, it's the economy and management of finite resources. For instance, you have a certain region, let's say a city, and that city is capable of handling a certain population, let's say 1 million. It has flowing rivers going in, or if you have piped water, which is essential for living. You have a drainage system, you have roads and railway tracks for supply chain management of food and taking out the trash for every day, and you have supply chain management for other things, and you have a service sector. You have places where people work and then they come back home. You have residential sectors, you have industrial sectors, and you have commercial establishments. So it has a capacity to manage a certain population. Now, suddenly, if you overwhelm that city from 1 million, if in the space of 2 years or 5 years, if the population increases to 10 million or 40 million, it's not possible to manage those resources. And what will happen is that city will suffer in a chokehold, and you will ensure that most of the population, 90+% or above, are lower middle class people who just about survive on 3 meals a day or 2 meals a day with the bare essentials, not well dressed, not well educated. Their living standards would be very low. Their housing complexes would be broken down and in a very shoddy state. This happens because of uncontrolled migration into that city. So that is a very unfortunate situation, and this happens because of lack of governance from government agencies as well as public groups. So one has to ensure governance at all levels so that the economy of finite resources are always finite. You don't have endless supply of drinking water. You don't have endless supply of drainage channels. You don't have an endless supply of supply chain channels. So resources are always finite. You cannot politically or otherwise ride on the excuse that we have to look after poor people, and therefore you can overwhelm the city with a huge population which keeps growing uncontrolled through migration. Then you must ensure that jurisprudence and principles of equity and natural justice are ensured for such people. For example, you have major crime, fine. Major crime can be handled by the police or other law enforcement agencies such as intelligence agencies. But you might have minor crime. You have law and order issues. You might have neighborly spats. You might have quarrel with your neighbor, or you might have disagreements with some people or a business disagreement. There should be a mechanism where these things are taken care of to the satisfaction of the people who are victimized or fall victim to such things. And the living standard should be such that there should be minimum conflict between two people. For example, if you have a city where the footpaths, the pavements are totally overridden with refugees who live there, work there, shit there, and also sleep there, then you cannot ensure that people do not quarrel with each other. Something is bound to happen. So to ensure jurisprudence, principles of equity and natural justice, again you have to ensure governance to ensure that uncontrolled migration doesn't happen, so that healthcare intervention and criminology doesn't have to take place. So you have to ensure penalties are punitive measures, punishments at every level, small punishments for law and order problems, big punishments for big crime, organized crimes. There should be a deterrence, and the deterrence should be written. It should be codified. For example, I should know that if I do something wrong today, I will be punished in this manner or that manner. It should not be arbitrary. It should be codified in law. So the rule of law, which is a simple statement, a rule of law should be ensured, which is part of governance. Okay, then people should have jobs. If I want a bigger job or a better job or a much more paying job and I'm willing to work for it, I should have the opportunity. And if I don't want a job where I have to work too hard, again I should have the opportunity to not to live a very stressful life. So there should be easy access to spending. I'm not saying jobs will be totally around the corner all the time, but yes, our economy should be at a certain level so that people can at least access jobs, so that they have access to spending power. They can earn money and spend. But if you overwhelm a city with a huge population, suddenly spending power goes for a 6. People are forced to live lives of extreme poverty and they lack essential goods. There are many lower middle class people who cannot eat things like butter, cheese, or even, let's say, they can't increase their diet or wear sensible or decent clothes even, because there is no access to spending power. This happens because of uncontrolled migration to that city. The city can only handle a certain number of people, a certain population. But if it is overwhelmed, then the city will drown in that pressure. And people should have access to spiritual skill development and social engagement. If I want to train myself, if I want to learn new skills with or without a degree, college degree, I should have that access to that. That is again possible if there is a limited and a controlled population in that city. And social engagement under certain umbrellas. For example, Sirsa is an umbrella or a platform where we have a social engagement and we exchange ideas. So again, yes, of course, happy birthday, Sirsa. I forgot to mention that. And it's quite an honor to speak at a 1 year anniversary. Right, then transparency and clear communication between interest groups. This is again a given. You have certain interest groups all over the city or a region or a nation, and everybody should continuously communicate with clear communication and transparency. That ensures good governance, and the result of good governance is a wonderful nation or a wonderful city. So, our perspective today is regions in India and around the world. So, my next slide gives an example. This is an example from the Calcutta Municipal Corporation. In 98, Government of India and Asian Development Bank (ADB) set up the Municipal Kolkata Environmental Improvement Program (MKEIP). They decided that it should be drawn up. In March 99, the Asian Development Bank appointed foreign consultants to support the Kolkata Municipal Corporation for the MCEIP and to conduct feasibility studies. Then the MCEIP created the Kolkata Environment Improvement Project (KEIP) in 2001. So step by step, they're improving and increasing their foothold. In September 2009, now it's getting closer and closer to the present situation. The total project cost was pegged at 1,806 crore. Out of that, Asian Development Bank's contribution was 64.2%. Government of West Bengal's contribution was 18.5%, and Kolkata Municipal Corporation's contribution was 17.3%. Out of that Asian Development Bank share, 30% was a grant and 70% was a loan, which could be repaid in time. So this is a blueprint that was drawn up, and this is an example. On the next slide, it says these were the conditions the Asian Development Bank set up. Now look at the first condition. The Kolkata Municipal Corporation was to meter all water consumers. As this talk is happening it's happening online, but I suppose quite a few of my listeners right now are from Calcutta. You all must be aware that water is free in Calcutta. Piped water, potable or not potable water, unpotable water is free in Calcutta, free for use. And it is available on roadsides. People can come on the roadside, wash their utensils, have a bath. You will see immigrants from Bihar, from Assam, from Odisha, from Bangladesh, from North Bengal coming to Calcutta, living on the pavement and washing themselves in public view, wearing a gamcha or a lungi and wetting themselves. And that's what free water. So this, if we go back to the earlier slide, this plan was last formulated in 2009. Now it is 2021. As far as we know, there is no metering of water consumers, zero in Calcutta. So this is an example where if we set up comprehensive town planning and good governance, we can build a beautiful city. So that condition has not been fulfilled till now. Now the other conditions by the Asian Development Bank were KMC will implement property tax reforms. That is a related topic, but we will not get into depth over there. There should be a benefit monitoring program as per the criteria set by ADB. Again, we don't get into the criteria. And KMC will upgrade the sewerage and drainage network. So right now, what kind of sewerage and drainage network do we have? I don't think we have a lot. Calcutta is a riverine city. It's a delta. It's sitting on a delta. So the river Ganga starts breaking up maybe 700 kilometers north of Calcutta, around Murshidabad. And then it breaks up into small rivers. And all the drainage and sewerage happens through those small canals and rivers within Calcutta and around Calcutta. So there is no sewerage and drainage network to speak of, and KMC will upgrade the sewerage and drainage network. That was the last, I have repeated this condition. Okay, fine. Then this is the current situation. I hope everybody can see these pictures. These were taken recently. This is the current situation. These are examples. And this is the case all over the city. So town planning would involve a solution to this problem. Comprehensive planning would ensure that people do not squat around these drainage canals or rivers. There is proper housing, maybe poor housing, but clean housing. They should have reasonably set out drainage, waste management. So the last condition was waste management. There should be waste management. Today there is no waste management. This is an example where plastic is dumped over there. Now, if we look at another part of the world, let's say Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a city which is controlled by two nations. One is the Palestine nation, Gaza, and another is Israel. So this conflict ensures that there is very little comprehensive town planning. So another issue that we have to take care of is there should be clarity in governance. Who is governing whom? Is the state government responsible? Is the local government responsible? Or is the responsibility divided among topics? If do we have something absolutely clear as to who's responsible for what and who's answerable to whom for what? This is an example where Jerusalem is governed by an unclear governance body. Therefore, this has resulted in people living in tents day in and day out. This is another part of the world, but we have to adopt these lessons to come up with a wonderfully working model to adopt in India. So my next slide is about Bangalore. As you all know, Bengaluru, the word Bengaluru means the village of boiled beans. Bangalore was a village. It suddenly grew in the last 20 years because there was a huge demand for engineering colleges. So in Bangalore, people started setting up engineering colleges and universities which were one building big, one story high. And they started supplying a lot of engineering graduates to multinationals who shifted to Bangalore. And because of a lot of reasons and also the wonderful weather there, Bangalore welcomed these companies and they started growing at an uncontrollable pace. And Bangalore is close to the Western Ghats. So therefore, what happened was, in the last 10 years, the number of slums grew from 29 to 154. A huge increase. Again, this is unchecked migration to the cultural hub of the South. The large region that I mentioned here is the South. And this has resulted in an absolutely uncontrollable situation where good governance and comprehensive town planning have not taken place. So these are the lessons to be learned. The next slide is about what this uncontrolled migration achieves or does. It's all about exporting cheap labor. People who don't have jobs, people who don't have clothes to wear, people who don't have food to eat, all they have is their bodies and their ability to work hard. They come over to a city and they are willing to do anything for very less money. So it's an export of cheap labor or an import of unwarranted import of cheap labor. For example, in Delhi, New Delhi, outskirts across the Yamuna or Jamuna river, there are huge colonies where migrants from Bihar live. They come over and they're ready to do a lot of work for less money. But what has happened is those places have turned into slums. And there is a huge law and order problem there. Lots of places of Gurgaon, the city which is next to Delhi, those lands were sold off to commercial establishments at a very huge price. So people who were farmers suddenly gained crores and crores of rupees. And that again turned into a law and order problem. Because these people started coming into the city, spending that money, and they had no cultural awareness of how to get on in life, and they lost all that money very soon. So if we go back to that slide, where the pointers are available, now if we look at easy access to spiritual skill development and social engagement. So those people in the borderline of Delhi and in Gurgaon, they lacked easy access to spiritual skill development and social engagement. That made sure governance was lacking, comprehensive town planning was lacking, and that resulted in a very unpalatable situation. Going back to where we were, exporting cheap labor, forced migration versus voluntary migration. So, what is voluntary migration? You are an educated person, you are looking for a job in another city. You find a job, you look for a place to stay, you sign a contract with the landlord, you rent out a flat or a house, you employ servants. That's voluntary migration. Everything is planned. You have a social security number or Aadhaar card, you open a bank account, or you already have a bank account where you can transfer your bank account to that city, etc. And forced migration is a person who doesn't have a choice. He goes to another city just to survive, just to exist. So that happens because of lack of governance in the first place. The partition of India was totally unplanned. Therefore, it resulted in a lot of forced migration from Bangladesh to India, from Pakistan to India. Very little migration took place from India to Pakistan or India to Bangladesh. Most of the migration over 40 years took place into India because the Indian economy was much better all the time. Now, next what happens is there's a situation where you have a division between haves and have-nots. You have these slums in Bombay. Let's say example is Dharavi slums. Now you have policemen just ensuring law and order by making sure that these poor people don't spill over to the areas where rich people live. Now these poor people may or may not have conducted any crime or engaged in any crime, but just because a huge population lives in a very small area, these people are restricted from many activities, and the police's job is to restrain them. Forget about law and order, just restrain them. Don't do this, don't go there, don't come in there. This ensures that comprehensive town planning fails or is absent. Therefore, this is not a palatable situation again. So there happens to be a line between emergency and affluence. So there is no right to freely enjoy and own private property in those places where there is a huge population. What happens if I live in a big house with 40 rooms and 10 servants, and around that house you have a population of 50 lakh people living who don't even have clothes to wear? One fine day they are going to break into my house. Why? Because they want to. Because there's a feeling of being deprived. There's a feeling of being jealous or unhappiness. This again comes from lack of comprehensive town planning. So then you have to get into situations where one neighbor is breaking into another neighbor's house for no reason at all. One neighbor deliberately damages something in another neighbor's house. So you have these small law and order problems breaking out into major law and order problems. Then you have to have intervention of healthcare assets or medical science intervention. People falling ill for no reason at all. If you don't have proper drainage, you don't have proper drinking water, you live in a place of 100 square yards, you have 15 or 20 people living together, disease will be rampant. Absolutely, there you cannot check it. So then you need doctors and nurses to come into these slums and to places for no reason at all. If you ensure enough sunlight and living space, you can avoid these interventions. Then you will have social workers, policemen coming in, intervention of criminological principles. So to ensure natural justice, you have to avoid these places and ensure comprehensive town planning takes place so that people can freely enjoy and own private property. Today, if I own a car and I don't have place to park it, and my neighbor does not even own a bicycle, there might, or very soon, it's liable to take place that this person may come over and scratch my car with a keychain just out of jealousy. Now, he doesn't want to do that. I mean, he's not a bad person. But this kind of a situation arises because of lack of comprehensive town planning. So the right to freely enjoy and own private property is denied because of lack of comprehensive town planning. This is an example again. This happened in Midnapur. It was reported in the Times of India. So I hope it's readable. So I'll just read it out briefly. The headline says, Doctor thrashed for paying rupees 10 as chanda or chanda as Bengalis would say it. So he was asked for donation for a Kali Puja and he refused to pay it. And when he was pressed for it, he gave 10 rupees. So that angered these people and they beat him up. Then the doctor made a complaint and 2 people were arrested. So the point is, these people, they feel it is their right to get donations. And if somebody is earning a lot of money, he has a responsibility to donate money to them. Again, this happens because of lack of comprehensive town planning. The person who thinks it is his right to get donations does not have access to good employment, does not have access to good living standards, does not have access to skill development. Therefore, his life has nothing but that Kali Puja. Therefore, he resorts to donations for a better life. And he has no activity in his life. So the private property, that the money the doctor has earned, he cannot enjoy it. He does not have a right to enjoy that private property because in the social system, he is forced to part with it because other people don't have anything. Now, here again is an example. Doctors are on strike. And who's guarding these doctors or ensuring these doctors don't go out of line, cross the line? It's policemen. So why are policemen supposed to guard doctors or restrain doctors from activity? That is a situation which is totally undesirable in society. That happens again because of lack of comprehensive town planning. If you plan a town or a region or a city properly, where everybody has wide roads, the pavements are free of squatters, people have jobs, people have educational institutions to turn to, people can travel freely, enjoy private property freely, then you ensure that these situations don't arise. The police are free to do their job, not to restrain doctors. So availability of physicians and paramedics is part of the healthcare infrastructure. If they go on strike, you're denying that to poor people who need it. Overpopulating an urban space with refugees leads to non-availability of utilities to the whole population. So there's a conflict owing to overpopulating urban spaces with refugees. Uncontrolled migration. So then we refer to the Price Waterhouse Coopers report on refugee crisis in Europe. So the challenges these countries face are successfully caring for and resettling migrants. We all have gone through that. Differentiating between genuine asylum claims and economic migrants. So we don't have to go through that in India because everybody has a genuine claim and there's no claims system in India. People just come and sit down on the pavement and just live there. Or they find a drain and they just sleep beside the drain. Integrating new migrant arrivals into society. How do you integrate? How do you rehabilitate people? How do you ensure they have skill development? For example, in Japan, you have a department of people in the police whose job is to rehabilitate the criminal, to find him a job, to find him a skill, to train him properly. And if they fail, they feel bad about it. So this kind of integrating a new migrant into society has to be a planned and scientific procedure instead of an ad hoc procedure or a politically motivated procedure. Assessing infrastructure and ability of the accepting countries. So you have to assess your infrastructure ability to absorb a migrating population. Today, I might think that I can absorb 10,000 more people or 10 lakh more people. But suddenly, if I have 100 lakh people coming over, then obviously I cannot absorb so many people. You can't just have people living on the streets. then there will be no streets. There will be suddenly encroachment houses everywhere. Securing funding for humanitarian aid, again, this is a government initiative. And then you have handling terror. This was part of the PwC report. So terrorism and terror or organized crime is a result of lack of comprehensive town planning. To ensure security of your own nationals and the migrating nationals, you have to control unmanaged migration. And then you have to use technology, innovative and advanced technology, to help respond quickly to the ground situation. Right. Next slide, a brief introduction of Next Harvest. This is the organization I head, and it works with the Government of India and state governments and of course private sector companies in getting a better future for India. And I invite all of you to participate, to discuss, and we can all do it through Sirsa. So all ideas are welcome. All ideas are better. It's a dynamic environment, and comprehensive town planning is a dynamic activity. So there should be participation, as I said before. Governance has no substitute. So the governance in real time has these three components. It should be visionary, it should be retrospective, and it should be instantly effective. Retrospective as in it should also take care of things that happened before, and it should take care of visionary things like which has to happen tomorrow. And whatever solutions you implement, they have to be at least instantly effective. You can't wait for 20 years to think this may succeed or may not succeed. You cannot make a mess like that with comprehensive town planning. People's lives matter. So the next slide is about Next Harvest does these social platforms to push local, regional, and national governments toward better governance. Social organizations ought to come together to form superstructure, mores, and values for better governance. We can all do this together. Now, there are four examples here. The first picture that you see on the top left is Seattle. Seattle is one of the most planned cities in the whole world. Comprehensive town planning ensures that there is very, very little crime, absolutely negligible law and order problems there, because the whole town and the city is planned properly in terms of jobs, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of medical healthcare, in terms of schooling for children, in terms of playgrounds, whatever, supply chain, management of waste management, trash, drainage, incoming potable water, everything. The picture that you see on bottom left is New Delhi, again, which is a very nicely planned city in India. It is 7 times the size of Calcutta. The slums have developed across the river, which is 10 to 12% or 15% of the size of Delhi. And the rest of Delhi is relatively very wonderfully planned. You have roads where you can drive at 120 kilometers per hour. And that is possible. The roads are of that quality and that wide. Okay, the picture that you see on your top right is Chandigarh. Again, a beautifully planned city where every road, every tenement, every housing complex is planned. Chandigarh does not have roads. For example, in Calcutta, you have this road or that road, and whenever you ask somebody, you'll say, I'm standing on so-and-so road. Chandigarh has sectors and numbered roads, and the whole city is one complete comprehensive block, beautifully planned. And the bottom right picture that you see is Stuttgart. It's not Copenhagen. Copenhagen, I worked briefly on, associated with some people. Beautiful planned city. But Stuttgart, again, is a very, very nicely planned city where you have public transport management at a very different level, very wonderfully different level. So these are models which we can adopt, have discussions, push for adoption of these models to various state governments, including your own state government, wherever you're from. I don't know who is listening right now. You could be from Andhra Pradesh, you could be from Kerala, you could be from Bengal, you could be from the Northeast. So we could always discuss, push for the adoption of these models, and it's not rocket science. We can transform our state, our country, as a nation, a much more beautiful nation. It's entirely up to us. So thank you. That's all I have to say, and I'll go back to the other screen. Yeah, hold on. Right. Okay.
Another thought. Thank you to our speaker. It was a really, really engaging and very thoughtful talk. And now we will go for some questions. So if we can have the questions on the screen. Yeah, so this is a question. Please discuss a little on the impacts of migration of labor force due to global COVID-19 pandemic. So,
Yes. So I would like to answer this question by saying, firstly, this is a trap. How? How is this a trap? Because if we get involved in manifestations, what is a manifestation? Okay, I would like to ask how many people are online right now?
so we have about 12 to 15 participants right now. It's changing. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a trap because if we get involved with manifestations, for example, a manifestation is something that you outwardly see. For example, I have a fever. My body has a fever. The fever is a manifestation, it's not the disease. So the disease is something else. You could have hundreds of reasons why you have a fever. You might have a stomach upset. You might have a cold. You might have a brain tumor. You might have eye pressure under the eye. You might have blood pressure. There are hundreds of things that have gone wrong, that could have gone wrong within the body, but the manifestation is a fever. And all those reasons result in a same manifestation, which is a fever. So forced migration of labor due to COVID-19 pandemic is a manifestation of a problem in society. It is not the problem. The problem is unplanned commercial and industrial establishment where workers were initially, even before the pandemic happened, the workers were not given proper places to live, or were not given proper places to keep their children while their women also went to work. There were no planned creches. There were no planned food dispersal or free healthcare dispersal hospitals. For example, where there is supposed to be 5 ESI hospitals for workers, there was one. So all these lack of resources, lack of comprehensive town planning led to a situation where the only thing holding up a worker's life, a laborer's life, was his job. When he lost his job, he had to suddenly go to his hometown by walking. So that is a manifestation of the problem. The problem itself was somewhere else. It was lack of comprehensive town planning in Hyderabad, in Gurgaon, in Noida, in, let's say, Bangalore. So if you had planned comprehensive town planning in those cities, the workers would not have suddenly have to ditch everything and run. So the forced migration was a disease. It was not the disease, it was a manifestation, it was a fever. So the problem was there before it happened. So therefore, people should not get involved with manifestations. They should discuss the disease and solve the disease, solve the initial problem. This is just a manifestation.
Yes, sir. So we move on to the second question, which is by Nilanjan Shaha. He says, what measures can be taken by social working NGOs for better town planning with existing situations?
Nilanjan, thanks for the question. The answer is NGOs are run by people. So there has to be people's participation. Firstly, you say social working NGOs. So you have to be clear exactly what does the NGO want to do. There are millions of NGOs in India. Every NGO has a definite goal or a definite objective. Some NGOs only promote handicrafts. Some NGOs only promote free healthcare. So when you say social working NGOs, it's a very umbrella term. What really can be done by NGOs is have platform. For example, Next Harvest, the one I mentioned in my presentation, that is a Section 8 non-profit company, which also qualifies to be an NGO under the law. So where we encourage participation by people like Nilanjan Shah and other people, and provide their ideas and then draft resolutions to be submitted to governments so that new laws can be drawn up in legislatures. These new laws will again help in comprehensive town planning. We have to pressurize members of parliament and members of legislative assemblies and councils to improve on comprehensive town planning, and only citizens can do it. If we demand it, we will get it. We have to pressurize our MPs and MLAs. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. And also some easy solutions that can be taken with less expensive initiatives. Whatever I have mentioned, Nilanjan, does not involve any expense. Less expensive, I mean, the question doesn't arise. Whatever I'm talking about, participation for comprehensive town planning, it does not involve a single paisa of expense. It involves participation, engagement, and ideas, and implementation of those ideas through planning. So we have to involve the government, involve the people. There is no money involved. You don't need a single paisa to do that. Get it? And these are very easy solutions. You must have participation. Without participation, it can't happen. How to prepare Yes. So how to prepare ourselves in Kolkata to face the migrants from other states? You cannot face migrants one-to-one. For example, if I live in a house and suddenly I see 6 migrants in front of my house, so you cannot face migrants one-to-one. You have to have an institutional mechanism to handle such migrants. For example, today, if you allow a shopkeeper to set up an illegal shop on the pavement, that is the first step towards welcoming migrants to sleep on the pavement. Tomorrow, that migrant will be, doing potty on the pavement. And if you keep on allowing things, first you allow an illegal shop to happen, then you allow illegal stacking of inventory. The person will, stack his goods there without a municipal license. And then if he bribes a local MLA, he will get a municipal license. Tomorrow he'll call some other migrants to help him. Then 20 other migrants will sleep on the pavement and do their business there without any drainage. Then they will suddenly one day start eve-teasing, So law and order issues will be there, but now then it's too late. You have welcomed and turned a blind eye to everything, and one fine day you can't do anything. And the only qualification of these people is we are poor. So you can't do anything to us. You cannot touch us because we are poor. So poverty is a badge. I wear a badge, I'm poor, you have to give me everything free of cost. So comprehensive town planning involves you do not allow the slightest deviation from the law. The rule of law and the rule of comprehensive town planning has to persevere. If you do not do that, if you allow shortcomings, if you allow leniencies, one fine day you will be driven out of your own house. You will not have a job to do. All the jobs will be gone. The economy will be in shambles. So that is how you face migrants from other states. Shanta Chaudhary, what is the solution for overpopulated place like Kolkata? First of all of you have to get together under one umbrella, start discussing how to press people like MLAs and MPs to get rid of slums. Slums are a great generator of votes. If I am a politician and I have 400 people living in my constituency, and if I can welcome 4 million people who can just sit on the pavement and sleep on the pavement, and I give everybody a ration card and an Aadhaar card, I suddenly have 4 million plus 400 people in my constituency. And if I give all of them an Aadhaar card and free food, they will vote for me. So we have to ensure in writing that people who make the law, MLAs and MPs, they are aware that we want a better city, a cleaner city, a more organized and healthy city. We have to demand it, ask for it, and ask for it repeatedly every month in writing. Only then it will slowly start to happen. If you start making allowances for everybody, then you have welcomed your own death knell. So the solution for an overpopulated place like Calcutta is to make it underpopulated. Slowly, when situations become difficult for migrants who have no goal in life but to enjoy the resources of a city by doing nothing, then they will slowly start leaving, going back to their home village towns. And then Calcutta will become a better city. We have to make sure it happens.
So I had a question in the same line.
Okay.
So when you're telling us about the awareness, so that thing is coming up again and again. How much do you think that education has a role in this? I mean, how much do you think school education can actually propagate this idea in young minds?
Okay. So I'll I'll give you an example. I had advertised to hire people in my company. I wanted some people to be hired in Calcutta. I got something like 40, 50 applicants. All of them, all of them said that we don't want much in life. This is generally the underlying principle of people who live in Calcutta. We don't want much in life. We are satisfied with very little. In the morning, they'll get up and say, we don't run after money. And in the evening, they'll say, I have a lot of shortage of money. I can't do anything in life. So the school education is flawed right now. It is defective. We teach our children bullshit, a lot of bullshit. Firstly, we have to teach our children how to take care of ourselves in life, how to take care of themselves in life, how to be employed gainfully, how to talk to a boss, how to talk to your colleagues, how to work diligently in an organization. Because generally in Calcutta, generally what we teach our children is how to do poetry, how to do wonderful dance, how to paint, how to write novels, and don't run after money. This is something that is taught day in day out. Fine, nobody is running after money, but pursue money. Money is a yardstick. It tells you how much you have succeeded. There is nothing wrong with it. And if you have it, you can help other people. You can start a company and generate employment. But if you are also running around in the pavements wearing nothing, I mean, you don't even have money to buy a decent shirt, how do you help the economy, and how do you help your own family? How do you help yourself? And how do you help other people? So the school education is totally bullshit right now. We have to teach children proper things. I'll give you another example. One girl who came to me as an applicant for a job, I asked her a simple question. What do you do when you are not working? For example, she was working somewhere as a teacher, I think, a part-time teacher. And she had applied for a job as a researcher in my company. I said, when you are free, after you stop working, let's say at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the day, then what do you do? How do you spend your time? She says, I go to a rehearsal place where I rehearse for a play. I do theater. I asked her, have you ever thought that this is a play I want to do, or this is a role I want to do in such and such theater or such and such play? She said, yes, yes, yes. I have dreamt of this role. I have dreamt of that role. I have dreamt of this theater and that theater. I admire such actor and such actress. I said, now tell me, you have come to me applying for a job. Have you ever dreamt of this job? Have you ever thought that I want to do this job? I want to earn so much money. I want to work in Microsoft. I want to work in Google. Have you ever dreamt this? She said, no, I've never dreamt it. I've never even thought about it. I said, then just go away. Because you don't even want to be here. You want here for free money. You don't want to do anything. So when you say education, absolutely correct. The education is bullshit right now because it teaches you stupid things, which teaches you wrong things. It teaches you how not to maintain your health. What is the most popular breakfast in Bengal? Luchi aludam. What is luchi? Fried carbohydrates. What is aludam? Fried carbohydrates. You are loading your body with fried carbohydrates early in the morning. You will sleep all day. So you are teaching children how not to be healthy, how not to earn a living, how not to do anything gainful, how not to interact with people or in an office. So what the hell will he do when he grows up? Except commit suicide. So yes, education is necessary. How do you solve slum problems in Kolkata? So I answered this question already. Slums are something which have resulted in year after year after year of allowing leniencies to happen. First, you allow somebody to set up a shop, illegal shop. Then you allow somebody to do this illegal, that illegal, and slowly slums set up. For example, Calcutta has beautiful canals, very beautiful canals. I mean, they are at a level of beauty where you have canals in Austria or Hungary. But those canals are lined with slums. You can't even see the canal. They are dirty houses which are abandoned totally, but which obstruct the view of the river. Calcutta has beautiful riverfronts, beautiful riverfronts. So to solve these slum problems, you have to start comprehensive town planning and pushing for legislation. Keep pushing for legislation, keep demanding such legislation. If you keep saying, we are okay with so-and-so doing this illegal and that illegal, it will continue. We don't have to be violent. We have to put things in writing and demand that this is what we want of our city. If enough people demand it, they are liable to do it. They have to. Whoever it is, the chief minister or MLAs or MPs or parliament, anybody, they have to do it if the public demands it. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm also looking for a lot of interactive sessions, and especially live, physically, live sessions instead of online session. I would enjoy that more.
Definitely. I hope that we all heal soon and we can gather over in a physical session, which will be organized by Sirsa someday in future. So maybe we will move on to just one last question.
Okay.
So when you were talking about the metering of water in Kolkata, so what is your thought about the National Mission for Clean Ganga that have been in action for last decade almost?
The Ganga Rejuvenation Plan, the cleaning of the Ganga project, is a very, very large project. It's a very large project involving a lot of cities. If you look at the Ganga, you will see at least 25 cities, 25 if not more, large cities dispelling their sewage drainage into the Ganga. So that is millions and tons of drainage, millions and millions of tons. So the first step is waste management plants in all those 25 plus cities. Waste management plants cost money. Money can be invested by companies if there's a return. In the Smart Cities project launched by Prime Minister Modi, which totally failed because of bad planning by the Ministry of Urban Development, there were plans to set up waste development plants all over those 25 plus cities. Now, companies which went to the government to say that, okay, we have such plants. For example, there were some American companies which wanted to set up plants. These companies were told, show us proof of concept. Now, A waste management plant is something which is very huge. It requires at least, maybe half a kilometer to set up, or maybe quarter of a kilometer. How do you show proof of concept? You can't take the plant on your head and then show that this is working and then take it away back to your house. You must have a pilot project. You must have a land, show it it's working, and then the government will say, yes, okay, fine, it's working, then we'll go for it. Just as a government commissions a company to make a fighter plane. A fighter plane requires billions of dollars to make. You can't just make it and say it's failed, okay, fine, we'll forget about it. We can't do that. The government has to commission it. Government has to pay money, and at least the government had to say, this is a land, you put in a pilot project and show how the waste management project is working. None of those laws were happening. We tried to push through it, and we are still working on it. So that is one reason. Second reason is places like, let's say, I forget the name of the city. Let's say Allahabad. Allahabad, there was this unique concept. Just an example. You have municipal corporations linking the main drainage pipe to the Ganga from places like houses, cinema halls, hospitals. So an example is, one linkage would cost, let's say, 5,000 rupees or 500 rupees, whatever. Now, in a house, there are 5 people using the latrine or a bathroom. In a cinema hall, there are 5 people every second using the toilet. So the cost of linking the cinema hall bathroom is also 5,000 rupees. The cost of linking a house bathroom is also 5,000 rupees. That doesn't make sense. Again, comprehensive town planning. God gave you this, use this. So if we plan things properly, we can have clean rivers. When I went to the Caribbean, places like Florida, the Caribbean, Bahamas, so there you have a sea. The ocean is so clear. You can see the seabed, which is maybe 100 feet below or 200 feet below. You can see it absolutely clearly. Here you can't even see 1 foot below because the rivers are so dirty. Where does the dirt come from? All those cities are pumping their sewage into the Ganga. So rejuvenation of Ganga has happened a bit, maybe 5 to 10%, but we need to push for more, and we can definitely do it.
So a big thank you, sir, for being with us today. A really engaging and thought-provoking talk, and we look forward to meet you in future also.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to all the participants also for their good questions and also for being with us. So Sirsha will come back in a month with a newer lecture. See you soon. Good night.